the 2014 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, brought to you from Georgia Public Broadcasting. Now, the race for Lieutenant Governor.
Good evening. I'm Dennis O'Hare, reporter and local host of All Things Considered on Public Broadcasting Atlanta and 90.1 WABE. And we'd like to welcome you and our live studio audience to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta. This is the debate between the candidates for Georgia's Lieutenant Governor. Let's meet the candidates, and they are in alphabetical order. Incumbent Casey Cagle, who has been Lieutenant Governor since 2007, and Connie Stokes, who is a former DeKalb County Commissioner and former Georgia State Senator. Now let's meet our panelists. Condace Pressley is an award-winning journalist and manager of programming operations at WSB Radio. Christina Torres is a reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, covering state government and politics. And Dave Williams is a reporter for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Now, this debate will consist of 3 rounds, and for more information on the rules, please visit atlantapressclub.org. Now, let's get started. In the first round, the candidates will be asked 1 question from a specific panelist, and then 1 question will be posed to both candidates. Christina Torres, you get the first question for Connie Stokes.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Ms. Stokes, you said a struggling Georgia economy and one of the nation's highest unemployment rates inspired you in part to run for the Lieutenant Governor's office. How specifically do you plan to address those issues if you were to win office?
Well, I've traveled around this state, and what I have found, people are concerned about the economy. They are really concerned that we're at the very, very highest unemployment rate. Even though it dipped just a little bit, we're still there. And they want jobs. They want to be able to take care of their families. They want to be able to prepare for the future, prepare the kids for the future. And the main thing that we need to do is expand Medicaid, because we can jumpstart the economy. We can expand Medicaid. We create 70,000 jobs. We will bring in over $40 billion into the economy.
Thank you, Ms. Stokes. Dave Williams, it's your turn to ask Casey Cagle a question.
Thanks. You were at the forefront of efforts early last year to create Georgia's first state-financed venture capital fund. Yet both in the 2013 General Assembly session and again this year, lawmakers failed to appropriate any money for Invest Georgia. What do you plan to do to step up the push to kickstart that program?
Well, Dave, as you know, this has been a huge issue for me. I truly believe that Georgia can become and be the Silicon Valley of the South. I identified well over 30 companies that were incubated, discovered here in Georgia, and went on to be great success stories. The problem is that they didn't have the venture capital presence here in Georgia, so they were recruited elsewhere. I want to stop that, and in order to do that, it's about Invest Georgia. It's a public-private partnership with a commitment from the state of actually $100 million. This year, we were able to secure $10 million of that $100 million, and the beauty about it is it's going to create real economic opportunities, not just in Metro Atlanta, but across the state. And so we're going to be very focused not only this year, but continuing to make sure that this is a real success all across the state.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. And Connie Stokes, Condace Pressley, you may now ask a question of both candidates, and Connie Stokes will get the first answer. Ms. Pressley.
I would like to ask each of you a question about transparency in government. And beginning with you, Ms. Stokes, I'm wondering, do you believe the state of Georgia should have its own independent ethics commission?
Condace, I really believe the state of Georgia should have its own independent ethics commission, because we want to have open and honest government. That's what the people want. And we can't really have where the people that the commission is supposed to audit and investigate, have them making those appointments. So we need drastic change, we need drastic reform, and also the Ethics Commission need to be funded so that they can do their job and make sure that the people that they elect are doing their job, that we're accountable to the people.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stokes.
Yeah,
Cagle.
I fully agree. I think that in ethics, the people need to make sure that they can trust their elected officials. incumbent upon us to make sure that our ethics laws do just that. This past year, we actually engaged upon really the toughest ethics laws in the country, something that I'm very proud of, making sure that not only there are caps in place, but also that transparency exists. The Ethics Commission itself certainly has undergone some challenges. Most of that has been quite candidly through leadership, but I do believe that not only more transparency is important in this process, but that they have the autonomy to make the right kinds of decisions for the people of Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle, and that concludes the first round. The candidates will now ask one question of each other, and each will have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds for the person being asked to respond, and 30 seconds for the questioner to give a rebuttal. So Casey Cagle, your question first for Connie Stokes.
Well, my question is actually pretty simple. Senator Stokes and I served together for about 10 years, if my memory serves me right, in the Senate. And I think that really, isn't it true, Senator, that both you and I not only had great passionate debates during that time, but also had wonderful mutual respect for one another?
That is true.
Ms. Stokes? Anything further? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm looking forward to being lieutenant governor, and I'm looking forward to working with both sides of the aisle, Democrats as well as Republicans in the Senate, and many of the men and women in there I did serve with, as you stated, as I did with you. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And I'm, in January, I'll be there to be able to work across the aisle and take your place.
Mr. Cagle, you have 30 seconds if you'd like.
Well, I do think it is important. One of the things as the presiding officer of the state Senate that I've worked to do is to reach across the aisle, making sure that every voice is heard and that we have the right kind of debate that's going to move Georgia forward. I've been a lieutenant governor that actually have allowed 4 Democrats to chair committees, something that I'm very proud of. And even though Senator Stokes and I oftentimes disagree on public policy, we can do it in a very civil way, and I think that makes for a better Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Ms. Stokes, your question now for Mr. Cagle.
Yes, I do have a question, and my question has to do with the question that was asked: open and honest government, principled leadership. The people of Georgia, as I've traveled around this state, are very concerned with big money in government. And Lieutenant Governor, I want you to respond and explain this statement. Here's what you said when speaking to the UGA college students. Some of you in this room may want to be elected officials. Some of you may just want to be kingmakers. Some of you just may want to make a lot of money where you can support candidates and tell them what they need to do. And you went on to say it is perfectly okay.
Ms. Stokes,
and I think the people of Georgia would disagree that it's okay for having big money in politics.
Well, I do think that obviously in the political process, it is important that everyone take opportunities to participate, not only at the ballot box, the ability to offer themselves for public office, and others as well that have their voice heard. And as the senator knows, we have a committee process that affords people that opportunity. I think it is incumbent upon not only us as elected officials, but to continue to instill trust in the electorate. That's why we have campaign finance laws on the books that limit the amount of money that individuals can give to a certain candidate. I think that's important. I also think it's important that lobbyists are restricted in how much money not only do they give in terms of campaigns, but can take individuals out to dinner and utilize those resources. So I'm proud of the fact that we have taken those steps to make sure that it is fair, open, and there's accountability, and we'll continue to make strides in that endeavor.
Mr. Cagle, thank you.
I would like
if you're just
rebuttal. Okay.
We don't have rebuttal in this round, but you'll have a chance to address your points. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, my mistake. You have 30 seconds.
Yes. And I want to rebuttal because I didn't hear the answer to the question. I was asking if you feel that when we go out and speak to young people, we should tell them that it's perfectly okay to make a lot of money and tell elected officials what they need to do. So my question to you were, do you feel that that's what actually happens? I think most people that are elected would disagree that the people with money tell them what to do, as if that's the normal course of action in the Senate or in the legislature.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Stokes, and again, my apologies. If you are just joining us, this is the debate between the candidates for Georgia's lieutenant governor, and we'll now go to our third and final round. In this round, our panelists will question the candidates again until we run out of time. Candace Presley, you get the first question in this round.
Senator Stokes, in general, do you support or oppose the school standards known as Common Core?
I support Common Core for many reasons, but more importantly, before we even get to supporting Common Core, what we have to do is make sure education is funded. We have to make sure that we can bring those 9,000 teachers back into the classroom. We have to make sure that we can decrease the class size. There are so many things, like, for example, technical schools. We under my opponent's leadership, they cut technical school funding. So some of the students had to just drop out without just saying that this is at the end. So I really support fully funding and investing in education.
Mr. Cagle, she directly referred to you and talked about cuts. You have 30 seconds to rebut.
Well, first of all, I mean, the real question, I think, was about Common Core. And certainly, I think everyone, including myself, is very much in favor of ensuring that we can not only compete on a worldwide stage, but there are measurements that are in place for that. But the ability for the federal government to ultimately dictate what those standards are going to be means that they're also going to dictate what curriculum is going to be. And I'm very much opposed to that. I do think that we can create the right kind of structure that gives everyone the understanding of what our measurements can be here in Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Christina Torres, your turn to ask a question.
Appreciate that. Let's continue this theme of education. I'll direct this to you, Mr. Cagle. You've said a good education policy drives the economy, in this case, of course, Georgia's. But what does it say about our education policy if Georgia has one of the highest unemployment rates and is still a struggling economy?
Well, there's no doubt. I do believe fundamentally that education drives the economy, not the economy driving education. I believe we have to focus on workforce development. It is essential to not only existing companies, but the companies that are looking to come and locate here in our state. Every CEO that I sit down with, the first thing that they ask is how are you going to assure me the workforce development for the future? And that's when I'm able to talk about our college and career academies, where we have 29 of those, where we take a high school and a technical college and we blend them together to teach kids on a technical path of learning, giving them a skill that is necessary to go to the workplace. Those are the things that are making a difference. So I clearly believe, no doubt, that if we're going to impact unemployment, if we're going to build the kind of Georgia that we want, we have to invest in education. We have to do it in an innovative way. College and career academies certainly provide that innovative options for every student.
Dave Williams, your turn to ask a question.
I have a question for both candidates on tax reform. We've had an ongoing debate in Georgia on that the last few years. It kind of boils down to whether the state should move away from taxing income and more toward taxing consumption. An example of that is on this fall's referendum, we have a constitutional amendment that would freeze state income taxes at the current 6%. Between consumption and income, where do you stand on that side of the debate?
And this is for both candidates,
right.
Correct? All right, Ms. Stokes, we'll start with you this time. 60 seconds for you and then 60 for the lieutenant governor.
Yes. As it relates to tax reform, we really need to look at total tax reform. And one of the things that we need to look at is all of these companies that come to town, they say that they're going to create all of these jobs. My opponent and the governor fly around with them and say they're creating these jobs, and there is no accountability. It's been decades since we've really had tax reform, the tax reform that we need for Georgians. And that's just one of the issues that we need. What we need to do is make sure we invest in education and bring those teachers back and decrease those class sizes, and we need to talk more about that.
Mr. Cagle, 60 seconds for you.
Well, I certainly do believe that we need a significant tax reform. We underwent a tax reform study, and by doing so, we were able to discover many important factors. One of the things was a strategic industry in manufacturing that we wanted to attract. We were able to cut the sales tax on energy for manufacturing, which has created a huge boost, not only for manufacturing for new companies, but existing companies as well. We also embarked upon a tax cut that allowed the movie industry to not only come to Georgia, but thrive here as well. Today, we're the third in movie production in the country as a result of that. Ultimately, I do agree that I think we need to move towards more of a consumption-based taxation system and away from taxing income. We've got many tax study committees that have looked at it in the past. We have one that a lot of conversation is going on right now as well, and I think Georgia can move in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Condace Pressley, your question next.
It's for both candidates, if I could, Dennis. I'd like to know each candidate's position on an increase in the minimum wage in the state of Georgia.
All right, and Mr. Cagle, since we began with Ms. Stokes last time, we'll start with you this
Certainly.
time.
Well, I do think, obviously, that everyone needs the ability to have a good paying job, and it requires the skill set that is necessary to compete in this global economy. When I talk to businesses, they say we've got jobs, but we don't have the skilled workers to fill those jobs. There's a skills gap that exists. We have to close that. That's why I have been so focused and committed in education, particularly in the relevance of education to the workforce today. I think the more opportunities and the pathways we can give kids to explore early on and give them that chance to have an industry certified certificate or an associate's degree or bachelor's degree in a specific skill set that meets the industry that they're looking for, we can allow great paying jobs to exist. In college and career academies, when they leave there with an industry certified certificate, they make twice the amount of money that they would with a normal high school degree. I think those are the things that we need to focus on. Good paying jobs will exist.
Ms. Stokes, 60 seconds for you.
Yes. First of all, I support increasing the minimum wage. People should not be able to have to work 40 hours or a full-time job and not be able to put food on the table, not be able to pay their rent. Also, I did not know that my opponent was going to do his stump speech because I'm not hearing any answers to these questions. I don't know where he is on minimum wage, and I think that is so important for the people of Georgia traveling around this state. People want to know where we stand on these issues, and minimum wage is a very, very important issue that we need to make sure that we fight for and stand up for people to get a minimum wage. The other thing, going back to, is such a great opportunity to increase Medicaid, expand Medicaid, because that's some way that people can get jobs, they can get good jobs. And my opponent has not said how he feels on expanding Medicaid. So we've got to stand up and speak out for the people so that they will be able to pay their bills, they will be able to put food on the table.
Mr. Cagle, she directly referenced you on Medicaid. Just on that, 30 seconds for you.
Well, obviously, I mean, Medicaid is a huge issue. It's difficult to answer in 30 seconds, but what I will tell you is that, you know, without expanding Medicaid, we're already going to see a $250 million hit to our budget in this legislative session that's coming up. $250 million without an expansion, just to comply with the Affordable Care Act. It's estimated at $1 billion to do the kind of expansion that the senator has just alluded to. So it's very difficult to create the kind of funding that's going to be necessary for that.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Dave Williams, your question.
I have a question for both candidates. A legislative study committee is meeting this fall to try to come up with a transportation funding plan as an alternative to the defeat of the T-Splost in most of Georgia 2 summers ago. What do you think that panel should be considering?
And Ms. Stokes, we'll start with you.
Yes, I think that they need to be considering a number of things. I did work very hard statewide trying to get the T-SPLARS passed. It's 18,000 roads in this state, transit. We really, really need to look at how do we compete? How do we bring jobs into Georgia if we do not have the infrastructure to be able to get people to and from work? And that's what we're suffering here. Under this leadership, we have not had a significant transportation plan. Even when we could get money to do a transportation plan, we did not have it under this leadership. We need to be more forward thinking in terms of, especially about issues like transportation. When I served on the chamber board, and that's one of the things other than education that companies ask, what is your infrastructure like? So we must make sure that we commit to having a program or having an initiative so that we will be able to improve transportation infrastructure in this state.
Mr. Cagle, 60 seconds for you.
Well, the reason that we put together the study committee is really to identify ways in which we can improve the congestion and road to create economic development across our state. This is a huge issue. The motor fuel tax, which is the predominant source of revenue that we receive because of CAFE standards and others, continues to decline. And so that base of funding is eroding away. And so we have to look to alternative funding. I believe very strongly that this committee is going to come back with significant recommendations, and it does need to be big and it needs to be bold. When you look at the expansion of the port, you look at the fastest, it being the fastest growing port, but also the busiest airport, we've got a lot of great things that are going on, and we need that kind of infrastructure to really match the prosperity and the greatness of this wonderful state. And I think that we have to make changes not only to the motor fuel tax, but we have to utilize the asset in the most efficient way, reversible lanes, also looking at tolls and other things of that nature.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. We have time for one more question, and because of time limits, Ms. Presley, why don't we go to you? And if you want to direct this to both candidates, we'll give them 30 seconds each on this one, if that's all right with both of you.
Going into the end of the last legislative session, most Georgians would have thought there was going to be a medicinal marijuana bill passed, and it was not. Do you see that happening in the next legislative session?
And Mr. Cagle, we start with you.
Well, certainly this was an issue that was debated extensively throughout the session. And quite candidly, cannabis oil has, demonstrated that it helps young kids with seizures. And all of us, and particularly me, are very sensitive to that issue. And we want to make sure that there's a solution. But we also have to make sure it's done in the right way. And the governor's taken some initiatives with the Georgia Regents University, and we're also very committed to making sure that legislation is passed this legislative session that balances all the initiatives.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Ms. Stokes.
Yes, I have so much empathy for all of the calls from the parents that I got that wanted treatment for their children. So I'm hoping that will move pretty quickly. But I'm also concerned and have empathy for the 600,000 people who would have access to health care that my opponent has not committed to expanding Medicaid, bringing in over $40 billion into this economy, creating over 70,000 jobs, and keeping community hospitals open. So I'm committed to keeping those hospitals open. Thank you, Ms. Stokes.
That's all the time we have for questions. And now it's time for the candidates' closing statements. Each candidate has 60 seconds, and by random selection, Connie Stokes will make the first closing statement.
Of course. It seems that I've made all of them first. Yes, I am asking the people of Georgia to vote for me as Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. I have experience. I've served 10 years as a state senator. I served 6 years on the local level, so I understand intergovernmental operations. But I'm running because I'm asking the people of Georgia to let me be their voice to improve education in this state, invest in education so that we will be able to compete. Our children will be able to compete, to expand Medicaid so that we will be able to get over 70,000 jobs to come into the state of Georgia, over $40 billion from expanding Medicaid, keeping community hospitals open. And then also, I'm asking for your support to be at least one of the women that serve at the Capitol, since we have all of the statewide positions are currently held by men. I will be the voice that I've been in the past to speak out for women and families. And also, I'm asking for your support because in this state, we really need to improve the economy. And that's what I'm running for, jobs and the economy.
Thank you, Ms. Stokes. Mr. Cagle, you have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me say thank you to Senator Stokes, along with the Atlanta Press Club and the panelists that are here. This is very important to have a debate to talk about substantive issues. And as a lieutenant governor, I've had the opportunity to do many things. But oftentimes there are things that cross my desk, that catch my eye, but there are few things that really catch my heart. And those are the things that I want to lead with. I had the chance to visit with a young girl in Athens not long ago, and she told me that she was not only going to graduate from high school, but she was enrolled in a college and career academy. And she was going to leave there with an associate's degree in criminal justice. She wants to go on and be a lawyer. She's able to do that debt-free. And this young lady is focused on her future, and she needs someone who will continue to stand in the gap and fight for her, just like so many others across the state. It's been an honor to be your lieutenant governor. I ask for your vote and your continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. And that concludes our debate. We'd like to remind all voters that the general election will be held Tuesday, November 4th. Early voting is already underway. Our thanks to the candidates and to our panel. And we'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging this debate. For more information about the Atlanta Press Club and all the debates they're hosting this election season, visit atlantapressclub.org, and this debate will be archived there. The debate will also be available on demand at gpb.org. The Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series is made possible by a donation from R. Charles Loudermilk. Stay with us for the debate among the candidates for Georgia's governor. I'm Dennis O'Hare. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.
This is a GPB original production.